What is up, guys? So today we're going to talk about HMP Walton, which is the worst prison I've been in. So it was a while ago when I was there. There was no TVs or anything. It was a scruffy prison. When I say worst prison, I don't mean the most violent. I just mean it was just absolutely crap. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And before I start, yesterday I was talking about how mass immigration has ruined England, which I stand by that. That's my opinion. If you ask a million people, you'll see a different opinions, a million different opinions. That's just mine. So if you don't agree with me, that's fine. But the way that England is collapsing now, it's never been as dangerous as what it is now. The NHS is collapsing because there's too many people. People can't get housed anymore. I mean, you go to London now. Imagine if you had £10 million and they said, "Oh, come on, let's go to London for a night out." Your first thought is, "No way, I'm going to London. I don't want to get stabbed," because that's what it's like now. Every day you put the news on and there's some woman getting her head cut off in the street. Like, ooh, we don't do stuff like that, and it's all immigrants what have come over. And it's the same with enforcing this LGBTQ thing on us. I'm getting sick of it now. Nobody was bothered about trans women or gay people before, but now because they're forcing it down our throats, no pun intended, it's getting sickening now, and it's ruining things that I love, like movies. Movies now are absolutely crap. They're catering to an audience that doesn't exist because they're just like, I mean, look at Doctor Who. Doctor Who now is a gay black man, right? And his mortal enemy, Davros, who was an evil guy in a wheelchair, he's not anymore because they don't want to offend disabled people because he was in a wheelchair. You've got Snow White, who's a mixed race woman now, who doesn't get rescued by the prince anymore because she's a strong, independent woman. What are you fucking doing? They're just ruining movies. They're picking actors based on the colour of their skin and their nationality. They're not picking actors that are suited for the role. So it's like with the Marvel movies, if you've got 5 characters, and one's Chinese, one's black, one's Hispanic, and one's trans, they don't gel as a team. They're not right for the role, but they tick the boxes. You know, he's black, yep. She's a Chinese, yep. He's a all his pronoun bullshit. He's non-binary, yep. And the movie's crap because they're not gelling, they're not got the right actors for the roles, and they're just remaking movies like The Crow. Crow, brilliant movie. The original, they've remade that, it's absolutely crap. The Marvel now, they're just gender swapping everyone and getting all different colours, and it's just nonsense. And all the celebrities are all massive pussies now. They've got no idea what's going on in the real world. So yeah, because it's affecting movies, the thing that I love, it does made in because they're catering for an audience that doesn't exist. They don't even watch movies, half of them. But anyway, that was just my opinion. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. That's the whole point of YouTube, so you can put your opinions out there and talk about it. But let me know in the comments if you agree with me. If you're sick of movies getting ruined by casting ridiculous actors that are not suited for the roles. But yeah, HMP Walton, the worst prison I've been in, just rough as out. I remember, I can't remember what year it was absolutely ages ago. And like I said, there was no TVs, you didn't get anything, you got a book and a cell, that was it. And I went to Walton on an overcrowding draft, which is, an overcrowding draft is when there's no spaces available. The prison's full, so they just ship you out to wherever there's a space, and you could end up anywhere. And I've ended up in Walton, Norwich, all over the place. But yeah, I went to Walton, and the day before I went, the screw came to my door, and he tapped on the flap and opened the flap. He says, "Paddy, I've got some good news and some bad news." I says, "Well, go on and give me the bad news." He says, "You're going to Walton in Liverpool." I said, "Fuck it out. What's the good news?" He says, "You're not going till morning." Slammed the flap and walked off laughing. So yeah, I thought, right, well, we're going to Walton in Liverpool. And the next morning we was waiting to go. We took us down reception. Everyone was telling me, "Oh, it's crap, Walton, rubbish jail." And we was all sat in reception, and there was one guy there, skinny little crank. He was proper ugly little. He had one of those air lips. He had a ponytail. and I just, he was a Billy bullshit. I knew what he was as soon as I saw him, and he just started going on telling everyone how tough he is, and I kind of like people like that, you know, because they're entertaining. A bit like Brian Cockrell, you know, when people are just on video lying and you know that they're lying, but it's fun listening to him. So I was sat there like nudging my mate, like Billy bullshitter, and he was talking about how tough he is. And just a couple of days ago, he was going down for his breakfast, and he picked someone up and threw him over the balcony. Because in Doncatraz, there's like steps go up, and they have a top landing. It's not that far down, but if you get thrown over, obviously it's going to hurt, but it won't kill you. So yeah, he's talking about going throwing this guy over, and he said he went down for breakfast, and we all knew he was full of shit. But then we set off to Walton, and I can't remember if it was Walton or Norwich where we got lost. I think it was Walton, but it might have been Norwich. But we ended up getting lost on the sweatbox, and anybody who's been on a sweatbox will tell you don't want to be on there all day lost. It's like, best way to describe it is take everything out of your fridge, sit in your fridge and shut the door. That's what it's like in a sweatbox. I don't think you're handcuffed. I can't remember the amount of times I've been in a sweatbox. I think they take the handcuffs off you and then put you in. Or they put you in and you have to put your hands down, they'll take the cuffs off. I think that's what they do. But yeah, we got lost, and we're driving around. It was like, fucking hell, can't wait to get out of this sweatbox. And then we finally got there. I'd never been as happy to get into a bloody prison. I can't really remember much about reception, but I can remember I saw someone there, which is always fascinating to me. I saw someone there who I know, someone I used to go to school with. I was like, what are you doing here? I know what I'm doing here, I'm a fucking junkie, but what are you doing here? And that was always fascinating to me. You would see people in prison who you'd never in a million years dream to see. Like, you'd see one of your old mates as dad, he's on the next wing. It's like, fucking hell, what's he doing here? But yeah, and when I went to Everthorpe, as soon as I got out, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm not going to know anybody here. As soon as I walked out, the first guy I saw was a bloke who lived around the corner from me. I was, Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's always amazing the people that you meet in prison when you're on tour, going to all different jails. And I saw this kid who I knew from school, said all right, and then they took us up to the wing, and the guys who came down with me were Barnsley lads. I always have time for Barnsley lads, they're always good lads. There's Potsy, there's one of, I think there's like 6 or 7 Potseys. I think his name was Alan, this guy, Alan Potts. There was another kid with glasses called Ryan from Barnsley. I think Skip was there as well, a kid called Skip. And we went up onto the wing, and we had breakfast while we were there because it was early. And we went up, and I got 1 Weetabix, which I was like, I thought it was stitching me up. 1 Weetabix, because what's 1 Weetabix going to do? 2 slices of bread and some jam. And that was it. And I'm like, you fucking taking piss or what? He says, no, this is what you get here. And I'm looking around, and that's all he got. 1 Weetabix, 2 slices of bread and some jam. So we've gone up onto the wing, walked into my cell, and I remember my cellmate. I had 2 cellmates in there. The first one was this guy I'm going to talk about. The other one was like a little rat. He genuinely looked, I'm not being disrespectful, he looked like a little rat. Proper skinny little rodent. And but this first padmate I had, he was sound. He was a big old lump. He looked like Decahegi, you know, one of those big fighting faces. Looks like he could hit him with a crowbar and it'd just bend around his head. And I went into the cell, and I think what he said was, I could be wrong here, but I think when I said to him, because it was funny when I said to him, I said, oh, where are you from, mate? Are you alright? He's like, yeah. I said, where are you from? And he went, Stoops. So I just thought, what? Stoops? Stoops, because he had a bit of a speech impediment. And but let me know in the comments if that's a place in Liverpool, Stoops. But he was sound, you know, he was a good lad. And back then there was no TVs, there was no kettle in your cell, there was nothing. All you got was a bunk bed, a sink, you had a little wooden wardrobe and the window, and that was it, and a toilet. And so I've gone in, had a chat with this guy, and he was a good lad. And the thing what struck me was they're just pure bang up, because it's a working jail. So when you first get there, for the first like 2 months or something before you get a job, you're just banged up 24/7. And like normal jails, like Doncatraz, my local, which I spent years in there, like they put you in the cell, and every hour they'll come round, and check, make sure no one's hanging themselves, make sure you're not like killing your pad mate or something. They'll come in, do bolts and bars where they come in, bang on the bars to see if you're like trying to tunnel out or escape or whatever, and then they'll check the locks. So it's called bolts and bars. But there was none of that in Walton. They just literally threw you in a cell and just left you there. And I'm like, fucking hell, it was crazy. If you wanted to kill your cellmate, you had all day to do it because nobody came. The only time they opened the door was for dinner and tea, and the food was absolutely terrible. But what I did, which I do quite a lot, is I befriended someone behind the surgery, and he was this little kid from Manchester. He was a bit of a knobhead, but I thought, I'll be friends with him. He's a cleaner, and I'll get extra food and all that. That's a good tip. Always make friends with the guy on the surgery. And anyway, he didn't have a girlfriend. I said, "Oh, do you want me to get a lass up to visit with you?" And he was like, yeah, nice one, buzzing. So I had a word with my missus at the time, and I said, "Are you going to bring someone up to visit him?" And there was a lass, I think her name was Kerry. She used to cut hair in Lindholm prison or Morelands prison, I'm not too sure. But she says, "Yeah, I'll bring her up to visit him." So she's come up, she's brought Kerry up, I think her name was, and they sat on a visit, having a kiss and a cuddle and that. And he was absolutely buzzing. We got back to the wing, he was shaking my hand. It was like he'd never had a girlfriend before in his life. And this is how cringe you are, because she was a tidy lass. She was blonde hair, really good looking, and he used to do this thing where he's serving dinner. He would do the tea from the urn. So he'd be sat on a table, like giving people tea from this urn. And he went down the next morning, and he had a photo of this lass. And he was sat there with his photo, showing everybody this lass who's visited him, Kerry, saying, "Oh yeah, this lass has visited me." I'm thinking, fucking hell, what a knobhead. Proper cringe, like he'd never had a woman before. But anyway, I befriended him, and you used to get, I think it was association once every 2 days, where you were out yourself for an hour and you could just sit on a bench, watch a bit of TV, play pool. I think it was every 2 days you were allowed in shower, which is unbelievable. And by law, you're allowed an hour on the exercise yard. But Walton was such a big place, the landing was so long. Like, by the time we got to the yard, it was time to come back. It was a massive prison. And the first time I went on the yard, see, I struggle because I've got bad anxiety, really bad anxiety. I struggle to make friends really quickly. It takes me a while. So I used to walk around on my own for a bit, and then the Barnsley lads came over, introduced themselves, and I got really, really close with these guys, really good lads. And anyway, I was walking around the yard, and it was like a normal prison yard, but it had like a moat around it. Like, I guess it's a drainage system where you could go down the steps, but you're not allowed down there. And there was some cells underneath, and someone was shouting and saying, "Paddy." I was fucking, who the fuck's that? Paddy. I'm like, am I fucking tripping here or what? And I look down, and there's my old mate, Keego from Stainey, Craig Keegan. I've grown up with that guy, and it's going back to, you meet people, like, you would never expect them. I didn't think I'd meet anyone in Liverpool that I knew. And this Keego, kid that I grew up with, literally grew up with this guy. And he's there on basic, underneath in the dungeons. He's like, "Oh, you're right, mate." It's fucking, it was mental. But yeah, it was just pure bang up. And because there were no screws coming and checking, what we used to do is buy a can of pop from the canteen, which they don't usually sell cans of Coke, but they did in Walton, and because you can make knives out of it. So what we did was you opened this can of Coke, drank it, and then we used to, like, you click the top of it, and there's a hook, the lid, what you get, you go open it, and there's like a little thing where you can hook. We got some bedding, ripped it up, tied it through the top of the can, filled it with water, and hung it from the sink. And then made a little campfire in the cell and heated the water up so we could have a cup of tea. I mean, it wasn't really about having a cup of tea. It was about having something what you're not supposed to have, and making the fire and, the whole thing. Because you're in a cell all day, bored as fuck. There was no TVs. We did have a stereo because I always make sure I've got a stereo. So a lot of the time, yeah, you could just make cups of tea. If you tried that in Doncaster, you'd get nicked straight away. There'd be a screw at your door straight away. And because there was no TV, shouting out the window is a big thing. That's why I'm good at banter, because I've been doing it at the windows for years, ripping people at the window and getting everybody laughing. And if you can win over a prison crowd, you can pretty much win over anyone. So we used to stand on wooden, because the window was right up. Like usually the window, you can stand and talk to the window, but this one was right up. And you had to stand on the wooden cupboard to talk out the window. I nearly fell off it one day. But yeah, the food was terrible. And when we finally did get a job, I didn't have any trouble. That's the thing. It was a scruffy prison. It was a crap prison, pure bang up. You know, but there was no violence, because you could never get out of your cell to be violent. So there was not really any fights or anything like that. But when we finally did get a job, it was one of those tedious, mind-numbing jobs, like twisting polypipe, like connections, you know, like plastic connections for sink, and you have to screw the top on and put it in a box. Oh, it's mind-numbing, but it gets you out of your cell. And there was a kid there who was a bit of a bully. And he was from, they call them Jedis. I don't know the whole thing between that, but if you're from a certain part of Liverpool, they call you a Jedi. And they don't like Jedis for some reason. And this guy was a Jedi. And he was a bit of a bully. So he had his back to us on the Barnsley table, and Potsy was like throwing shit at him. It was like, and he's jumping up, who's fucking throwing that? I'll smash your heads in. And he was like, don't know, mate. And as soon as he turned around, he's fucking throwing him again. And this kid says, oh, I'm gonna fucking, it's you know, pointing to me because I'm the smallest one there. And he said, oh, I'm gonna smash your head in and all this. And that's the only bit of trouble really we had. And I remember Potsy coming to me and saying, oh, what you saying tonight? He might come in your cell, you know, so just be ready. And I remember my cellmate who looked like Decker Heggie, you know, proper, looked like he could fight. He said to Potsy, if he comes in here, I'll use that window as a cheese grater on his head. And I was like, yeah, just fucking let him sort it out. But yeah, that's really the only trouble that I had whilst I was there. And then I can't remember what happened, but they put me in with this other kid who looked like a little rat. I used to wind him up because he was on the top bunk. And I always used to say, the daddy of the pad's always on the bottom bunk. You do as I say. And just wind him up until one night he jumped out. He said, fucking come on then. I was fucking laughing my head off. But yeah, it was a real shit, real crap prison, you know, just boring as hell. Pure bang up until you got a job. Food was terrible. Never get out yourself for association hardly. But I did manage to befriend the kid on the servery, so the food for me, I got extra food and extra milks and little luxuries like that. But overall, real crap prison. I've heard people say now that it's not that bad now. You probably get a TV in your cell and kettle and all that. But back then, when I was there, you didn't get none of that and it was crap. But anyway, that's the video for today. HMP Walton, what a load of crap. If you like this video, press the thumbs up. La Syndicate d'Initiative.